The following program is paid for by Barbara Arnwine.
The topics, views, and opinions expressed on the air and via All Igniting Change with Barbara Arnwine, platforms by host Barbara Arnwine Esquire, guests, and supporters are their own and are independent of any organization, entity. Nothing said on the show or any of its platforms constitutes a client-attorney relationship or serves as legal advice, counsel. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to Igniting Change, its platforms, or the show's host. It's time now for Igniting Change, a weekly provocative and empowering program where you, the listener, can ignite change. Now here's your host, Barbara Arnwine.
Get up, stand up.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Igniting Change. Oh, I'm so glad that you're listening today because we have a great show for you. And we are excited to talk to you today about how you can ignite change around the country, how we ignited change last week, how we're going to ignite change in the future. I am just so glad you're here. I am happy to bring up my mighty co-host, who is one of the nation's most foremost attorneys, one of the nation's most foremost progressive social justice, racial justice advocates. I am so happy to bring up the chair of the board of the Transformative Justice Coalition, none other than Daryl D. Jones. Hey, Daryl.
Hey, Barbara, it must be Tuesday. It must be noon Eastern Standard Time because we're talking igniting change around America. Barbara, my goodness, July 17th, the day that we lift up and continue with the fight for justice, the fight for democracy, the fight for inclusion that John Lewis lived for. And July 17th, of course, was the day that he passed away. But this July 17th, we lifted up that spirit of inclusion. We lifted up that spirit of getting into good trouble and took it to over 1,600, nearly 1,700 locations around the country. And what, Barbara? 5 places internationally. Come on now.
7 places internationally, but yes. I'm just so delighted. Hey, thank you, everybody across the country who got out there. And Daryl, those pop-ups, too. We had all those people who just called their neighbors and said, come on, let's do something. Or they met with their churches and said, let's do something. And they just did their own pop-up events, never got it listed, but they did it. They wanted to be in these streets to say it's time for good trouble in response to this oppressive, dehumanizing, cold-hearted, cold-blooded, just authoritarian administration that we're dealing with, and Congress, majority Congress. So it is so key, so critical that we're not silent in this time. And I'm so glad that tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, who knows, all the numbers who got out there and said, I stand for justice. I stand in the place of John Lewis because I will carry on his legacy. Thank you so much, everyone. Daryl, that is just amazing. Now, before we get into our show, there are a few things I wanted to talk about up front. I wanted to give a major hero shout out, Daryl, to all the people who have been showing up in Durham, North Carolina. We talked last week about all the people who were helping the heroes, sheroes in Texas. And Durham, North Carolina also had a horrible flood. And I want to, thank people who have been going there to help the community of Durham, who have been, they're not waiting for national news to say it. They're just there to help. Thank you so much, everyone. And to the people of Durham, we send our hearts out to you. And every kind of wish and every kind of, blessing that can be bestowed upon you in these times of trouble and so much to be done. So, people, if you got friends, churches, community groups in Durham, please unite to help the people of Durham. Daryl?
Absolutely, Barbara. And Barbara, we would be remiss if we did not certainly take a moment to recognize the loss of Malcolm Jamal Warner, who passed away at the age of 54 at a drowning in Costa Rica. And, our heart just goes out to him, his wife, his children. As we know, he was his mother's only child. And so our certainly our heart goes out to his mom as well. Just devastating news with the loss of Malcolm Jamal Warner, Barbara.
Oh, my goodness. Malcolm Jamal Warner, for a number of us, for so many of us, he was our Theo, right? He played that role with such authenticity that you believed that was who he was. And the beauty of him was that, unlike these actors who get mad when people, identify them with a favorite character, he didn't. When people would say, "Hi, Theo," on the street, he would holler back, "Yeah, hi." He was proud of the role that he played. He was such a role model to so many young men and women. He was so vulnerable in his role because he was that little brother that was always getting into trouble. He was that brother that always had some kind of excuse, and the parents knew it was coming, and they were ready for him. He was always, such a positive influence, such a positive role model who achieved so much good stuff while he was on TV, and people looked up to him as a role model, as a young man who learned, as a young man who was accomplished, as a young man who was leading, people toward, forward. One other thing I liked about Jamal, he never, ever ran away from having a black consciousness. That's really amazing because he was a child actor. A lot of child actors just never get there because they cannot, have the guidance, the maturity to really grow up and to be fully engaged human beings like they want to be. We've seen it with child entertainers, but he grew up proud of his blackness, proud and willing to help others. He always was looking for ways to support programs and projects that helped to advance everyone, African Americans, everybody who needed him in this society. He was there for everyone. I really, really, really hate to hear that he's gone. It's such a loss.
And Barbara, the Cosby Show in general was one of the first shows that really placed African Americans in a very positive light. You had Claire Huxtable, who was the lawyer, at Cliff Huxtable, who was the doctor. So, it really did speak to upper middle class America. It spoke to black middle class America. It spoke to the possibility of achieving great things within this society. So, the Cosby Show itself, I think certainly, just uplifted so many people. And as you've mentioned, Theo, Malcolm Jamal Warner, certainly played his role to a T as the big brother to Rudy. And I think it was the middle child, if I'm not mistaken. But he played the role to a T. But most importantly, he showed the positivity of a young black man, of a young teenager in the United States. And that's one of the things that I certainly take away from it.
And and for all of us, he was, our Theo. That's what I call him. He wasn't just Theo; he was our Theo. He was like another family member, and and you watched him, in his growth through the years on the show, and you were, pulling for him, and his infectious fat smile and his upbeat attitude. just really, really was an inspiration and such a joy to us week after week as we would watch that show. So I just want everyone to know that we send our love, our condolences. We pray God's comfort upon his family. And we say to all of you, we've lost a really amazing, young, amazing man. Also, Daryl, in our hero section, we met when we were in Chicago. We met another hero. She's 105 years old, Daryl, right?
Absolutely, Barbara. And let me tell you, Beatrice B, as they call her, Miss B, Beatrice B. Lumpkin, 105 years old. She came out to the Chicago Good Trouble Lives On rally that we had, and she was the former president of the Chicago Teachers Union. And we asked her, Miss Lumpkin, you're 105 years old. We're in Chicago. There are thousands of people gathered here at this place. Why did you come out? Why did you feel the necessity to come out to this activation, to this protest? And without missing a beat, Ms. Lumpkin said, I had to be here. My democracy is under attack, and I've got to be here to stand up. And from that, Barbara, we said what? If she can come out with her walker at 105 years old and sit through this rally, there is no excuse that anyone has for not at least doing something to be involved in the fight for democracy, Barbara.
All right, now we just love her. We want to send all our respect to her and to all of the elders in our society who keep bringing it, who never give up, who understand that you're going to be on that battlefield until I die. Oh, yes, I want everybody to understand how moving she was. And you had her stand up, and she took a bow away to the whole crowd. It was awesome.
Absolutely.
It was beautiful.
Absolutely. Big, beautiful smile. She stood up and wanted to say hello to everybody and encourage everyone to continue to stay in that fight for democracy. But we had another visitor, too, Barbara, who surprised us, didn't even know he was coming. We looked off to the side, and there he. I'm gonna let you tell this one, but we looked off to the side, and there he was. No one knew he was coming. No one knew he was coming. I guess he said, "There's no way you're coming to Chicago, and I not see you." Go ahead, Barbara.
You know who we're talking about, everybody. None other than the Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr. He was there. He was there. He was not going to let this moment when his colleague, his leader of the mighty John Lewis was being recognized, he wasn't going to be absent in that moment, and he was beautiful. It was so moving. It set the crowd on fire. It was just so good that he was there. I'm just so grateful to him that he will not stop being a leader. He will not stop supporting the work that has to be done in these times. So grateful to him, and so grateful for that. The other thing, before we get into the substance of the show, people have been calling me, and I
thought we were in the substance, Barbara. I was having a good time with this conversation. Go ahead.
I'm at the reports out from the various cities, but you're right. You are so right.
On the program.
So what? Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, we know that we have we have our guests ready, but let me just say one other thing. I know everybody in the world is wondering about these MLK file release. Just want to say, don't forget, there was a whole hullabaloo made about the release of the JFK assassination files. Turned out to be nothing burger. We cannot trust anything that the FBI compiled, put into any kind of folder having to do with Dr. King, because we know about the evil, rancid, racist hate of J. Edgar Hoover towards Dr. King and his obsession with destroying. During the time that he was FBI director, he was obsessed with destroying black leadership, period. And in fact, in COINTELPRO memos that came out showed that they said they were going to do whatever was necessary to stop the rise of a black leader, a black messiah. Listen, folks, don't get hung up on this stuff. You know, we got serious issues to deal with. The family has denounced this release because it's unreliable. Whatever it says, I don't trust one word of it, Daryl. Not one word.
You want to release something, Barbara? Release those Jeffrey Epstein tapes. That's what you release. But let's get into our show. Let's get.
Hey!
You want to release something?
Right
That's
now.
what you need to release.
You just said it. You just said it. We know a distraction when we see it. Come on, folks. We know what's going on. So let's get into our guest, our mighty guest. I'm not sure who is here, but we're going to try it. We're going to see who's on the line. I want to hear Diane Arbery is with us.
Yes.
All right.
How y'all doing?
Hey, Diane.
How y'all doing? I miss y'all so much. How y'all doing?
Oh, my goodness. We miss all the good people in Brunswick. Thank you for being on the show. I want to also see if Betty Magness had been able to join us. I know she was going to be late. Okay.
I'm here.
Oh, hi, Betty. Hey, Betty.
Hey.
Thank you. Thank you so
I'm here.
much for being here. Thank you, leaders. We're so happy. Did anyone else make it to the show? Stanley, do we have any? Okay, so those are our guests. All right. So let me start. First of all, everybody listening, you should know that Diane Jackson organized a John Lewis event in Brunswick. Tremendous success, and we're going to talk with her about that and about the continuing struggle for justice for Ahmaud Arbery. We're going to also talk with Betty Magness, who was the leader of the Chicago flagship event that was amazing. That was held at Daly Square, and we're going to talk in Chicago. We're going to talk about that. I want you to know that both of these women are amazing organizers and voting rights fighters in their communities and throughout, the state of Illinois for Betty and throughout Georgia for the amazing Diane Jackson. So we're going to talk about this whole thing. So the first question goes to Betty for the flagship. Betty, what's your one-word description for the flagship event?
Awesome, in all capital letters.
What was your
favorite?
What was your favorite moment during the flagship programming? Because it started. We told people they could start coming there at 5:30. We got the program going around 6:30ish. Tell people, what was your favorite moment?
I had 3 favorite moments.
All right, now tell us about it.
The first favorite was when all of the people, black, white, purple, pink, were dancing to Charlie Green's Bus Stop on Daisy Plaza. It was just unheard of that they all knew it and were dancing to it. The second thing was when I had 2 great female singers, one singing the Star Spangled Banner, one singing the Black National Anthem a cappella. They were off the chain awesome. And the third most exciting thing was my 3 students who read John Lewis's letter with such power, starting off with little Bradley, who was 6, and Apollonia, who was 12, and Kayla, who was 18, just graduated from high school. They were amazing. And every time I talk to someone around the country, they all mention those 3 students. They were absolutely amazing. Those are my 3 proudest moments.
Oh, my goodness. Well, Daryl, that's pretty darn good, right? And I would just want to know that, one of those singers, she's in her teens, right?
Yes, she's a teenager. She wants to go into acting and singing. She's with Colosso's youth group.
Wow, it was amazing. Star Spangled Banner, I don't think it's ever sounded that rich and that beautiful, Daryl.
Yeah, and she had
Clay Evans' daughter-in-law.
Yes,
okay.
Clay Evans, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because she had almost an opera sound to her there, Betty, singing the national anthem.
Yes.
I'm sorry?
I said she had an opera sound to her.
She got what?
She was in the opera. That she was in the opera.
Yes.
Right. She was beautiful. And Betty, and I know Diane's going to also jump in when we call on her. Tell us, this didn't just happen. How many people do you think were out there at that plaza?
I think it was at least 3,000 to 5,000. And what I was told, there was a group who organized at Federal Plaza, but they, in turn, once they said what they had to say, they marched over and joined in with us. Yes, because they wanted to be a part of the John Lewis event. And I think with you and Attorney Daryl and the reporter from Channel 32 that we pulled in last minute, the co-MC, you guys made it happen. I mean, you kept the crowd inspired and excited, and it was just a fun time kind of was had by all this, what I would say. But at the same time, we were very serious. And one of the things that the volunteers loved was the switch out that we started. My friend from League of Women Voters was in charge of the banner, and she had people volunteer.
Oh, yes, I loved it.
Turns holding the banner, and they were so excited just holding the banner. When their 15 minutes was up, they were like, "Are you sure?" And they said, "Well, you can come back in the next time or whatever." But that was a big deal for the volunteers.
Oh,
and then we had people walking around with clipboards doing voter registration. We were just on it. And all of our speakers were major, absolutely major, from the various organizations. It was just top line. And for the last 4 years, we had done it here in Chicago. And when you brought it here and made us a flagship city, we tried to live up to that because people have been coming with us every year for the last 4 years. And this was like the cum de l'etat, whatever the word is. I can't speak.
It was just the cherry on the top. Yeah.
Yes, there you go. There you go. The creme de top. But Betty, I gotta say that your Mayor Brandon Johnson, who showed up there, he really brought the heat and came directly talking to the issues unapologetically. That's what I like about it.
Unapologetically. And then after he spoke, he took the kids into the Daily Center and took pictures with all 3 of those kids.
Oh, how beautiful. He's such a good man. He's such a good man. I'm just so proud of him. Folks, people tell you all the time, it doesn't matter, who's in these jobs. They're all going to be the same, blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you something. Mayor Brandon has been amazing, like Mayor Scott in Baltimore. They have reduced crime. They have built up their cities. They have made sure the people in their cities are taken care of. And the one thing they kept telling us, Betty, is that Chicago is what? It's called a union city.
Town. We're a union town. You can't play with unions here. You can't do it if it's not a union person doing it.
That's right, and it was beautiful to see it. We want to really thank the Chicago Teachers Union for all of their support. The AFT, the National Education Association, whose president Becky Pringle came to Chicago and spoke. We want to give a shout out to AFGE, to all of these mighty unions. We want to give, so much thanks to everybody who was engaged. Now, hold on. Let's talk about some Brunswick, because, Betty, you've been to Brunswick. You
Absolutely. I was there. In the very beginning, I came. When you called, I came.
Yes.
Right. And before we do that, Barbara, we want to be certain that people that did not have the opportunity to watch the national broadcast live as it was occurring, that we are going to have it posted on the tjcoalition.org website. It was recorded onto YouTube. We're going to be certain to get it over to the tjcoalition.org website, so you'll be able to watch it there. So with that, Barbara, let's go on down to Brunswick.
Oh, yes, and before we do that again, to follow up with what you just said, folks, you can, it will be on the tjcoalition.org website. It's already on the Good Trouble Lives On website. We've had thousands and thousands of views, and of course, it's still on Facebook. And we just are so grateful for the thousands of people who are watching it and learning, Betty. Betty, it's not over. It lives on.
I know. I love it.
The truth is living on. So let's talk about Brunswick, because Betty Magness was part of we sponsored, I don't remember, Daryl, how many buses. We had all these buses that we sponsored the people to Brunswick in 2021 to come there and to support the family, because people were being so mean and cruel, and folks weren't supporting the family the way that they deserved. And we came there because Ahmaud Arbery had been wrongfully, viciously slain by the three, white vigilantes who killed him for no good reason other than they hated that he was jogging while black in their predominantly white community. So because of that, we brought all these people there to help the community, to support the community, and it was amazing. So Betty came all the way from Chicago on the Chicago bus.
And stayed until the jury was selected.
That's right. And it was just beautiful. So, Diane, you led the amazing Brunswick event. Tell us about it. Tell us about what it looked like. Tell us about what it was, who showed up. Tell us about this event, and tell us the importance of where it was held.
Oh, Miss Barbara, this was the best event I ever did. I was so shocked to see so many people. When you put that John Lewis banner up, I mean, people came from Jessup, Darien. People was rolling people up there in wheelchairs. Miss Barbara, this was so amazing and so touching. And we had the first black sheriff. He was 95 years old. He came out and spoke, and he put some wisdom on us. You hear me? And I told him, I say, Mr. Wade, I say, the reason I'm fighting so hard and trying to get justice for all is because of my nephew, Ahmaud Arbery. I said, I'm going to continue to let these people know we have the right to vote. Y'all not registered to vote. If you need a ride, let somebody know. We will get you there to vote. But so far, everybody that came out was registered voters. I said, thank you, God. Miss Barbara, it was an amazing show. I wish you would have been there to see it. Black and white. I told everybody, let's just hug and let's continue this fight for John Lewis. If you see something, say something.
All right now.
Don't do nothing about it. We got to start. If we don't talk about it, we ain't gonna get nothing done.
That's right.
It was amazing. It was amazing, Ms. Barbara. It was amazing.
And Diane, where was the event held? Where was it held?
Ahmaud Arbery Park, 1620 Townsend.
And that park did not just spring up and happen. That park is the result of advocacy, work that your family did, work that so many in the community did to make sure that Ahmaud's death would not be the end of the story, that his legacy would live on, right?
Yes. And I mean, the commissioner, Alan Booker, I mean, he is working so hard with this family to try to get some more stuff did. The commissioner, some of them is riding with us so deep. And I just thank God for the people that's still riding with us. And my church family, Miss Kareem, Miss Sharon, Miss Beth, they still going strong with me, Pastor Randy. I mean, they was out there, and we did some amazing work on Thursday. They were so amazing. They stuck with us. They still riding with us, Miss Barbara.
Wow.
And God is so good. God is so good. And John Lewis, the lady, I said, well, what made y'all come out today? She said, when we rode by this park and we saw John Lewis, I called my family in Jessup. They rolled their father up there in a wheelchair. Old white man, he got to be about 100 years old.
Wow.
They said, this is why we here, because of John Lewis.
And Betty, this is the power of John Lewis, right? That all throughout the nation, Daryl, there were, for everybody listening, almost 1,700 events. We'll never get the right count because we had so many pop-up events. We are so grateful. But that's the power of John Lewis, because if there was trouble, he traveled everywhere. And people in the Navajo, nation, they love him because he traveled to be with them. He traveled all in the West Coast. He traveled to Hawaii. He traveled wherever people were to fight against injustice and to fight for justice. So his courage is one reason why we had so many people come out. But Daryl, Betty mentioned that banner. I want to talk about that banner for a minute. Tell people, because that banner just didn't happen. Folks, this isn't just your ordinary banner with some little writing on it and, and a little date on it or stuff. This is an artistic rendition. Daryl, come on now. Tell people, because you designed the banner. You literally sat down and drew it out. Tell us about it.
Well, thank you, Barbara. But the banner is centered around John Lewis. In the very center of the banner is a huge image of John Lewis. And then surrounding the edges of the banner, you'll find the organizations that were originally supportive of the Transformative Justice Coalition's National John Lewis Day of Action. And they're all there, and in all four corners, it encourages people to vote. Very prominently displayed, because that's what John Lewis was known for, was encouraging people, registering people to vote. But then if you look closely at the banner, you'll see faded in the background, the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And that faded Edmund Pettus Bridge in the background symbolizes the Edmund Pettus bridges that banner crosses in every community throughout this country. Whatever your Edmund Pettus Bridge is, if it's dealing with homelessness, if it's dealing with, whatever the issue is, your drug addiction, whatever your issue is that you need to get across, that you need to bring people together and build a bridge, that's what that bridge symbolizes. And so everywhere that banner goes, we say that it's crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge there. It was crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge while it was down in Georgia, in Brunswick, Georgia, and dealing with the issues there and bringing people together, dealing with those issues. That's what this banner was all about in every place. I think it was 100, Barbara, 100 banners that went out across the nation.
Yes.
We couldn't cover all 1,700 activations, but we covered at least 100 of them. And that banner was there, Barbara, and everywhere from what I've heard, everywhere it was very well received. And I think that's what Betty Magness was making mention of when they decided to make John Lewis dance on that banner in Chicago. Is that right,
All
Betty?
right now.
Right. They were dancing. They were dancing to the music with the banner. And the banner was going up and down.
And I love it because from day one, when we first got our first 20 banners, we produced over 120 now of the banners. When we first got the first 20 banners, I always called it Daryl's baby because he would unroll it and he would make sure it was rolled up. And people always want to sign the banner. They wanted pictures with the banner. They just loved the banner. And again, it did its magic. On Thursday, around the country, people were gathering at the banner, celebrating the mighty John Robert Lewis for all of his amazing accomplishments. And because we walk in his spirit and we will never stop walking in his spirit. Good trouble. So, Betty, I went to the No Kings on June 14th. And I looked out, and it was a beautiful, amazing event. Wow, 75,000, just an amazing Saturday event. Now, Betty, you heard what I heard. That everybody was telling us what, Daryl, Betty, that nobody would come out on a Thursday. That
right.
Thursday, that we couldn't do this on John Lewis's actual day because people wouldn't come out on a Thursday. But what happened in Chicago?
They came out anyway. I mean, in Chicago, we have already been used to coming out on the 17th. Whatever day it fell on, that's the day we were on the lakefront. And this time, it was too many to go on the lakefront, so we ended up at Daily Plaza. And they were out there, as my grandmother used to say, "Four on a mule's back." That's how many we were. They were out there having a wonderful time remembering Congressman John Lewis. And when we passed the candles around and they were asking me, are we going to collect them again? I said, we have collected these candles for 5 years in a row. Let the people keep the calendars. I'll buy them next year.
That was so sweet. And I want people to understand that when I was there for No Kings, I looked out, and I saw, a beautiful audience, and I saw very, 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 very few black folks. What happened on Thursday, Betty? What did that audience look like?
It looked more like us than anybody else, but it was a large contingency of, as Reverend Evans used to say, of the other expression. So we were there. We were there in large numbers because we knew it was about Congressman John Lewis.
Yes.
And we wanted to be there to represent. And you didn't know Reverend Jackson was coming, but I did.
No, you was a shocker. It was truly a treat. And I want people to understand that we had the best DJ possible. Who was that DJ? What was that DJ's name? He was awesome.
I can't remember his name, but he was jamming, to use the kids' vernacular. And that was the other thing about the crowd. It was young. It was old. People had babies and strollers.
Yes.
There were older people. And Miss B is just amazing. You have to really get to know her. When you come into Chicago, we'll go with you and take her to lunch because she is just absolutely
wonderful.
Fascinating. She's fascinating.
I can't wait. And, I just I'm just so excited. I'm sorry, Daryl. It's just so exciting to talk about this. And so, was that true also in Brunswick? Because, you mentioned the almost 100-year-old white guy who was pushed up front. Was that white man who was pushed up front? Was that true that you had that kind of multiracial audience, Diane? Diane, we can't hear you. Oh, she dropped. Okay. Hopefully she'll come back in. But all right. So why don't we?
So Betty, there was a really interesting backstory that neither Barbara nor I knew regarding young Mr. Holt that did the John Lewis letter.
Oh yes.
Right, Bradley.
And with Bradley, yeah, with regards to his brother, could you share that story with our audience?
Sure. Some years ago, I can't even remember how many years ago it was, but his brother was in high school, and he was on the bus with friends of his from high school, and a guy came on with a gun and started shooting, and he pushed the young lady that was with him to the ground and on top of her so that she couldn't get shot, and he was shot and killed. His mother is chief of the Chicago Fire Department, and his dad, Ron Holt, at that time was a commander, I believe, in the Chicago Police Department. But here we are some 10 or so years later, and his little brother is speaking like he's getting ready to be president of the kids say, of the new United States. Okay, he's 9 years old. He's been speaking like that since he was, I guess, 4. Wow. Probably 4 years old when he first started quoting Dr. King.
Yeah, and Betty, one of the things that I thought was really, Betty, one of the things I thought was really
Blair Holt, and his name is Bradley Holt.
Oh wow!
One of the things I was really moved with regards to Bradley, Betty, was the relationship that you could see between Bradley and his dad, and how protective his father was.
Oh yeah,
you could just see the love. And so when we hear about black men and their children, that went against every negative stereotype that they ever tried to throw at black men.
And it was just impressive. Yes, it was. Yeah, I called his dad to get him. Yeah, I called his dad. I said, I want Master Bradley, I called him, Master Bradley, to speak at Daily Plaza next week. And he said, of course. I said, I'm going to send you an email with all of the details. And I sent him the information, and his mom said, we were trying to get him to memorize it. I said, I'm so glad you didn't, because they were supposed to be reading his letter, and that's what they all did. And what was so cute, Daryl, remember, she had him come up on the platform so she could see if we could see him once he got up there, and then Cameron went and found a little step stool for him to stand on so that people could see.
So you can see over the podium.
Yeah.
That is amazing. It was, Betty, I'm just so uplifted. Again, everyone, we're talking about John Lewis National Day of Action. It's amazing success. People said black folks would not come out this year to anything. People were saying folks would not attend a Thursday event. All over the country, hundreds of thousands of people turned country, and it was the largest multiracial gathering of protests since in 2020. I want people to understand the largest civil rights-based protests in probably the country, in the sense that every single state in the union, all 50 states, had not one, including North Dakota. All the country, around the world. We had Ireland. We had, Portugal. We had Spain. We had Germany. We had Italy. We had all these amazing international gatherings that were just amazing. And we want people to know that we thank you. We thank you because in these times, their greatest mistake you can make is to be silent when you know injustice is happening. To be silent, or to be fearful and trying to hold up like somehow it's never going to come your way. Listen, trouble will come your way. The question is, can you make the trouble fight it back? So we are so grateful for everyone. If you want to see the broadcast that we're talking about, it's going to be posted at the Transformative Justice Coalition's website, TJ Coalition. And you can also see it on YouTube, on the Transformative Justice Coalition's YouTube channel. It's right there at the top. You can also see it at the website, Good Trouble Lives On. It's right at the top. I want everyone to know that this wasn't a one-off, right, Daryl? We're not through, are we?
Barbara, we can't be through until democracy is corrected and that everybody's right to vote and everyone's right to participate is fully recognized in that place. So, no, we're not through. We're just getting started. This is the first step.
Hey!
We're just getting started. Come on now, Barbara.
Betty, what were people saying? I know that people are saying to me, next year. What were they saying to you at the end of the day?
We'll see you next year. Because they know we're going to do it again in Chicago. Even if we're not a flagship city, we're going to go back out on the lakefront and stretch for miles like we did before and have cars blowing in support of us when we do our candlelight vigil. We will be back next year with our fraternities and sororities and the Chicago Women Take Action League of Women Voters of Illinois and Citizen Action Illinois and ACLU. Oh, my God, Ed Yonker was just awesome, from ACLU. Yes. And then our impact people were all really great, talking about SNAP and Medicaid, our impact people.
Oh, weren't they amazing?
Awesome.
Daryl.
Just awesome.
Yes. And Daryl, tell people about some of the highlights of what they said, because it was extremely moving, and people are still talking about the impact of people's comments.
Oh, absolutely, Barbara, because, one of the impacted speakers, and we call them impacted speakers because these are individuals, regular, ordinary people that are impacted by policy decisions that's made by the federal government. And two of our impacted people had experienced cuts because of the current budget reconciliation, that big, beautiful bill, as they like to call it, or big, ugly bill, as we like to call it, that impacts their families. One of them was directly impacted from Medicare. She had brain issues, and she ended up having 3 brain surgeries. And, had she not had the ability to use the Medicare while she was going through that situation, she would have passed away. She would have died. She would not have existed. She would not have had the opportunity to have those surgeries. The current cuts that have now had, and what she was relaying to the speakers, is that given the cuts that they're now having, she would not be there on that stage on Thursday, July 17th. She would be 6 feet underground because she would not have had the surgery. That's what she was relaying. This is what we talk about when we talk about the impact of speakers. It's great to have the policy people talk about it. It's great to have the politicians talk about it. It's great to have people that are that are just knowledgeable talk about these policy issues. But there's something about the person who's directly impacted by the decision at their dinner table, that they have to explain to their child why they can't eat, why there's no food to be served, why they have to explain to their child why they cannot afford the surgery that will save their life. Those are the impacted speakers that we had in Chicago, and I just thought they made they just really brought it to life what this was all about, and the meaningfulness and the necessity for us to stand up and fight back, so that we're certain that all of our democratic principles and ideas are protected.
Yeah.
And one of them came from East St. Louis, all the way.
I couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe that.
East St. Louis.
Unbelievable. And she drove
her to share her story. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It just, folks, and there are so many courageous people that we're talking about big ugly. I keep reminding people and over again that we're dealing with people who are cruel, who are evil, and who intend to hurt people. They intend for people to die. They got this, Yarvin is their guru, and they think that somehow they're going to correct the world by getting rid of what they consider genetically inferior people, which is nothing but racism and hatred of the poor. Folks, you got to pay attention. You got to raise your voice. Remember, we're always telling you all that, to tell them that they're wrong, that you got to stop doing all this damage. All they care about is doing everything else, and they are destroying the safety social net for the poor. And I'm so glad that on John Lewis' day, of the day that he passed, the 5th anniversary of his passing, they've not forgotten people came with their John Lewis voice into the streets and said, I'm a good troublemaker, and I'm here for good trouble, and I will resist. I will not capitulate. I will not bow down to these false idols and your false gods. I will demand justice for all people. It was just beautiful. Right, Daryl?
Absolutely. Betty, I think I'm going to get a new T-shirt that simply says, I will not comply. I will not comply.
Right.
I will stand up.
And my co-host has a background on her Zoom calls that says, I will not be silenced. My co-host is Donna Gutman. And Indivisible, I just can't say enough about them either.
We love them.
They were just fantastic.
Yes. Those marshals, whoa, the best I've ever seen. Amazing. Just thank you to Indivisible, 5051, to NEA, to AFT, to Legal Women Voters, to women, Chicago Women Take Action, to all of the amazing groups that made everything happen. I'm here in Nashville, everybody. I'm actually speaking to you live from Nashville, where I am attending the African American Policy Forum event.
Oh, wow.
It is a summer camp for democracy defenders. We're talking about all of these issues of racism. We call it racial fascism that is pervading our country at this time. We're talking about what to do about it, how you fight back, how you get to a different point in history than the horrible point we're at right now. And what made me think of mentioning this to everyone, because I'm here with the mighty Janita Dawkins and all of these wonderful people from Nashville. Justin Jones, who's a state legislator, that you know his story when they tried to kick him out because he was too black, too for the people, fighting against injustice and fighting for gun control, and they just hated him and tried to kick him out of the state legislature, and we fought back. He's back, and he is one of the leaders, and TJC, the Transformative Justice Coalition, is one of the sponsors. But I want people to know that they gave me a T-shirt, And that's where I wanted to bring this, is that the T-shirt says, Betty, it says, Daryl, it says, ancestors, I know the assignment.
Oh, my God, I want one.
Assignment. Oh, it's gorgeous. Oh, I'll try to get you one. Yes, it's gorgeous.
I want one. Oh, my God.
Oh, yes, Betty, it is gorgeous, and it is just so beautiful, and I'm like, yes, we all have an assignment in this moment. It's not an assignment to sit around doing nothing. I thought it was fascinating, Betty and Daryl, that right after the John Lewis Day was over, I start seeing all these memes again on social media, all these memes saying, we got to rest. We're not going to do any demonstrations this year. We need the rest. We need the rest. I'm like, too late. Too late.
Too late, right.
In the street. So I said, too late. You know, you're trying to discourage us. You're trying to keep us, silent. But we won't be silent. 300,000 black women have lost their jobs this year. This year, in 2025, only in the month of July, 300,000 black women have lost their jobs. And you're going to talk about black women sit back and rest? Rest what? People, need money. They need income. They need a job. People have been talking about the fact that some folks are living out of their cars. I want us to know that that's why this isn't over. That's why we will be back. Right, Daryl? Turning it over to you to take us home. We love you, Betty. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much for helping.
Betty, y'all were just wonderful hosts and hostesses there in Chicago, Illinois. The preparation that you put into it, so that all the 3,000 to 5,000 people that came out the Daily Plaza had the opportunity to just have a good time, had a chance to really hug one another, get to know one another, get to spend some time together, understanding the mission, understanding that we were there to continue the fight for democracy, to continue the fight for individual freedom, for individual rights, for civil liberties, civil rights, voting rights. Understand what the purpose was. But the beautiful thing of what happened in Chicago was that when the Chicago Police Department became involved, they decided that they were going to be involved and wanted to be certain that everything went off without a hitch. Much big thank you to the Chicago Police Department for their involvement. Indivisible, everything that Indivisible did to be certain that the volunteers were in place and that everything went without any problems. So appreciative of that. But folks, we tell you, and we tell you again. What Chicago showed you is what we've got to be certain to do. They came off the sidewalks, they got into the streets, and they got into some good trouble, some necessary trouble, standing up for that which is right. That's what we've got to encourage everyone to do. That's what we encourage everyone to do. If you are a part of any of the over 1,600 activations around the United States, we thank you. We thank you. But the mission isn't over. The fight continues. We've got to stay in the streets. We've got to stay in the face of authoritarianism, to back it down, to stare it down, and to be certain that democracy prevails, that individual liberties prevail. So let's be certain that we're in place for Labor Day. Let's be certain that we're in place for each and every opportunity you have to raise your voice and be heard. As Barbara's mother used to tell Barbara Arnwine, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. Well, folks,
never gets fed.
Needs to have its mouth open and singing loud, saying, "Feed me more freedom," folks. Until next Tuesday, noon, Eastern Standard Time. Peace, everybody.
Peace.
The preceding program was paid for by Barbara